How's it going, everybody? It's the FizzWiz. I know it's been quite a while since I have streamed or made any videos recently, and I do have a good couple of reasons for that. One, work has gotten extremely busy the past couple of weeks. I work at a movie theater, and with all the movies coming out, I have to work extra hours there. I am planning on swapping jobs because I'm not actually making enough there to properly pay rent and you know, buy essential things like food and such. So I'm actually planning on changing jobs, which will end up changing schedules and hopefully make things a bit easier for me to stream again. But another reason why I've not streamed or made any videos is because I've been working on a personal project of mine. One that's completely original, a project that I've been thinking about and working on pretty much on the low for the past 2-3 weeks. Actually, I've been working on it for about a month, but I really kind of put more effort into it the past couple of weeks. But then something else happened, and I kind of stopped on my personal project because I kind of hit a roadblock with it, and I have jumped on this other project thanks to this event that has happened. Now, if you're a Sonic fan and you enjoy Sonic fan games, or if you've kept up with the Sonic fan game community at all, you've probably heard of a person named Oban. And Oban is a 3D artist, as well as, here, let me look at his Twitter real quick, because I've been following him on Twitter for quite a long time. He's a 2D, 3D visual effects artist, animator, game designer in training, and Unreal Engine 4 dev. And if you have heard of anything about this guy, then you know that he has been working on what's called the Sonic Infinity Engine. Essentially it was February 24th, so about 2 weeks ago, he had announced that he is done working on the Infinity Engine. The Infinity Engine's not done. He's done working on it. He doesn't want to work on it anymore. He's released the project out. And I'm going to leave a link to his video detailing this. In the video, he kind of goes over everything that's in his project, kind of. And goes on to says that he's done working on it. He wants to move on to other things and such, which is good on him. I'm glad that he's working on new things, moving on and expanding his horizons, which is really cool. But he had also released the source code for the Infinity Engine that he had been working on for everyone to do as they please with. And I've kind of just shifted gears, and I've been working on tearing apart the blueprinting and the source code of the Infinity Engine that he had released. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you all the different things that are within his engine, and then like show you all the features and how they function and stuff. And then I'm going to show you all the changes that I've made. I'm going to show you all the things that I've fixed, all the things that I have excuse me, added, changed, and a couple of other things. I'm planning on working on this quite a bit. There's a couple of issues that I'm trying to work through with the source code. He is a developer in training, and I suppose I would be considered a developer in training too, so it's not perfect, and I don't blame him or think he's a bad developer or worker or anything for the problems that are within the source code. To be honest, there is no such thing as perfect coding. Actually, there is, but that's beside the point. So I can't expect everything that anybody does to be perfect, and I can't expect the fixes and things that I'm doing to be perfect either. All the things that I'm doing are going to have flaws as well. So I'm going to go through and show all the things that I have done and all the things that he has done, and hopefully get the ball rolling and share around some ideas and other things with the Infinity source code. So I know a couple of other people have been working with it as well. I don't know how many people or how much everyone's been working on it. I have seen like maybe one other person working on it, and as far as I'm concerned, all they were doing was animation work, which I have no experience in. I'm going to have to train myself how to do eventually. But I'm excited to see what people do with this Infinity source code. And one thing that I'd like to mention real quick. This thing's called the Infinity Engine, and people have been calling it an engine. And in reality, it's not an engine. It's source code built on the Unreal Engine. Unreal is the engine that this is built on. Unreal is the actual engine. If people... I'm not trying to be nitpicky here. I just don't want a bunch of misinformation to be spread around. Because I did see a couple of Sonic tubers who had previewed the Infinity Source engine and kept saying that this was an engine that somebody had built, and in reality that's not true. What essentially Oban has done is he has replicated the physics that modern Sonic games use, which the physics engine that modern Sonic games use is Havoc, which is an industry engine. What he's done is he has essentially replicated the physics, controls, and feel of a modern Sonic game in Unreal. He didn't build this from the ground up. This isn't an engine built from scratch. This is essentially an engine replicated in another engine. So, which I know that sounds less extravagant than what it is, because I'm not trying to put Oban down here by any means. He's put a lot of time and effort. He's been working on this since the end of 2017, and I have been following him ever since that he went public with this project. I've been following him on Twitter ever since then, and I think that this is insanely cool, and I am super excited to share what I've done as well as what he has done. So no way am I trying to put him down whenever I'm trying to correct the both legal and grammatical errors in how people refer to this engine. It's not an engine, it is source code replicating another engine in Unreal. You could make an argument that that's an engine, but in reality it's just using an engine to replicate another engine, which Unreal is very diverse, so it's not like it's an unbelievable, amazing thing, because Unreal is an extremely diverse engine. It's great. So is Unity. But I just don't want a lot of people to say, oh, this is an engine built from the ground up, when in reality it's an engine or source code replicated in Unreal Engine. Which a lot of games built in Unreal Engine, and there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. A lot of games built in Unreal are... we'll see, Unreal is a free to use, it's a free access engine. Everything that is available in Unreal is accessible to you. It's absolutely free. If you were to make any games on it and you want to release it, you do have to have permission from Epic Games. You have to say, hey, we have permission from Epic Games. And if a lot of people are saying hey, or even if you make a fan game, you can't sit here and say, oh, this was built on the source or the Infinity Engine. You have to say, hey, it's built on Unreal, but the groundwork is labeled the Infinity source code or the Infinity Engine. So just so people don't get a bunch of that mixed up. Some people might understand that. Other people might be like, oh, why not just call it this Infinity Engine? And I'd rather not, get mixed up. I mean, Sonic fan games have never charged money, and you should never charge money for a fan game. I'm sorry. But if anything were to get mixed up, I'd prefer to not have to get sought after by Epic Games, or Sega for that matter. So just for the sake of argument, I do request that, people start calling it source code rather than an engine. But anyway, enough of the weird chit chat. I'm going to go ahead and swap over to Unreal to show you all the features that he has done. And then I'm going to swap over to the features that I have done. So let's get on over to that. All right, so here we are with the Infinity source code, open Unreal Engine. I've not opened it. I've not opened the executable that he released, which is a demo that you can download. What I've done is I've downloaded the source code and have opened it up in Unreal Engine. So first thing we're going to do here is hopefully my computer won't tank because I'm recording at the same time. Okay, it should be fine. So first thing we're going to do here is going to show off Sonic's moveset, which is pretty similar to any other Sonic games. You've got your basic movement here. You got crouch, you got a little spin kick, you got a jump, and a double jump. And of course, you got your boost and an air boost. So, all pretty simple stuff. You also got your stomp and your slide. Or your crawl. See, all simple stuff. See, he's kind of adorable. Look at that. Alright. Also got your homing attack. Bam, bam, shazam. And I've teleported out. That is a bug. That is a big bug. Hold up, we gotta close this bug window. As like I said, as you can see, there's definitely a couple of bugs in here. Now, this is, for the most part, a completely unedited version of the source code. I have saved a master copy of the source code and a copy that I have edited. So, let's go back here. Leaving the enemies alone for now. We also have the Lightspeed Dash. Shoot. See, as such, got your stomps. Interactable springs. You can take damage from spikes. Bam. Whoop. There you go. Balloons. 10 rings that add to your counter. And then you have your goal posts, which if you boost through, also slow you down. Got a little slowdown effect. Yeah, a little slide jump tricks and things of the such. Dash rings and rainbow dash rings that refill your boost gauge. Got air springs, as well as wide springs. Got dash panels. Woo! All fun stuff. Of course, you got your boost, which all of this is missile control, meaning the direction your mouse moves is the direction Sonic will move. And one little neat thing down there, if you look down at the boost meter on the bottom left, you have a 100%, which is dictating how much of your boost you have. See, as my boost meter drains, it'll go down, which is a neat little touch. You also got a thing. Sonic's able to run on water here. Get your H2, or yeah, your H2O meter. That's totally what it is. I don't know what happens if you drown, because I've never drowned before. And you got your hash pipes. Yeah, you got your hash browns. You got your half pipes here, which are actually broken. I don't think a lot of people have noticed this, and a lot of the demos that I've seen people play, they don't really address this, but the half pipes are broken. You're not actually able to run around the half pipes, or the shuttle loops, however you want to call them. But overall, Sonic feels really, really well. You got all this different kinds of stuff right here. Now, one thing that I have went ahead and changed, this is something that I have changed in the source code that I forgot to mention. Oh, you also got your trick lamps. Sonic does a little flip around, and you got your basic ones, which are just normal dash panels. So you got all that. What was I saying? I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, correct. One thing that I have gone ahead and changed is if you look up there at the score, you'll notice that the score doesn't actually show any individual score. What the score is actually doing, and I've went ahead and edited this and changed this, is the score is actually keeping track of Sonic's movement speed. If I'm not moving, it's 0. As I slowly accelerate, it increases. And this is units per second, and a unit in Unreal is equal to 1 centimeter, so every single unit is 1 centimeter a second. So if I'm moving this fast, I'm moving this many centimeters a second. If you were to equate it to real life units of measurement, but here it's based on Unreal's units of measurement, so I just say units a second. And as you can see, Sonic's max speed without boosting is actually 7,000, but there is a weird bug in the code that does not allow him to reach maximum set speed for some reason. I think this has to do with the amount of objects that the game has loaded in currently. I'm not entirely sure, but essentially, as you boost, you can see that Sonic pretty much just goes to his next max speed. He goes from about... He's supposed to move at 7,000 units a second, and he's moving at about 6.6 units, 100 units a second. But here, if you hit boost, he kind of just instantly reaches max speed, and that's supposed to be 10,000 units a second. And he kind of hits it, and he kind of doesn't. But it's kind of awkward and strange. That's something that I'm going to have to go in and take a look at. Very unusual. But it's also going to be a pain in the ass to fix, which is something that I've just not gotten around to doing yet. So, yeah, there's a lot of features here, and if you've played the demo, or if you've downloaded the demos, you'll know that he actually released 2 different demos, one entitling Sonic's gameplay, and one entitling Shadow's gameplay. And there's a reason I'm playing as Sonic right now, and I'm going to go ahead and, well, first of all, I'm going to close all these error windows that you can't see because they're off screen. I'm going to go ahead and open up the source code here. Or not really a source code, more like the blueprinting codes. Let's go ahead and resize everything back to how it should be. Character blueprint. And event graph. There are a couple of things that I have changed in this build. The amount of boost energy that it decays per second, and things like that. It's just a couple of things that I have altered myself. But here, one thing that is immediately apparent if you look through the source material here, which I'm trying to find a location where it says cast a character. I can't seem to find it anywhere, but I know that there is somewhere in the source code here. But essentially what a minor issue I have with the source code is the fact that the way that Oban had set it up is that Sonic and Shadow are referred to in the source code as 2 separate entities, rather than classifying both Sonic and Shadow as a single class and then referring back to the class anytime you needed to cast to it. Essentially what he did is he built Sonic and then he built Shadow separately, rather than building Sonic and then casting it to a class, or classifying Sonic as a playable character and then basically copy pasting, or I don't remember, I don't really know how it would be set up, but essentially there's an easier way than the way he did it. He basically set up Sonic and Shadow as 2 separate entities, when in reality he could have just set them both up as a single entity, saved a whole bunch of time and effort, and then just called different things based on the class. But essentially, anytime that I am editing anything in Sonic, anytime I change anything in Sonic, I have to then basically go and then copy paste and shove it into Shadow. So essentially, all the edits and things that I have done are in Sonic's gameplay only. I've only edited Sonic. I don't know if I will ever go back to edit in Shadow. That's just something I'll have to decide in the future. But essentially, I think that's really all I wanted to show you in here, is the fact that if I ever decide to release a demo of the stuff that I have been working on, you're only going to find it for Shadow, or for Sonic actually. You're not really going to find anything for Shadow whenever I release my demo of things that I have altered and changed. So there's nothing really else on here that I wanted to add on his gameplay, so I'm going to go ahead and swap over to mine to show you all the things that I have done so far. Alright, so here we are with my build. Keep in mind that the footage I'm going to show you is a work in progress. So the couple of things I'm going to show you is still not functioning properly. As well as I'm also going to be including a few bugs that were actually in this original code that I've not altered, which I didn't really show you because I didn't show you in the other one because that would have required me to change a few things to show off the bug, and I wanted to keep the source master copy as untouched as possible. That way I can refer back to it if need be. So let's go ahead and start up my version. First thing you're going to notice is I moved the pipe. And that's because we had a lot of testing to do with running around the running around the corkscrew, as I call it. So let's go ahead and do that first. In the original, you were not able to run around the corkscrew. The way the controls were set up did not allow you to run around the corkscrew. And I'm going to have to touch up some of the controls a little bit. But essentially, with what I've done, which, to correct myself real quick, all of this was not done by myself. I've had help working on this, so this isn't all me. But essentially, a lot of the stuff that you're going to see are additions of my idea. Okay, yeah. That's a bug I'm going to have to fix out. See, we're learning together. I've found another issue that we have, so I'm going to have to figure out. Alright, so, I can definitely see where this bug is coming from. Essentially, anytime you see that circle around Sonic, that's actually, if you notice, that only shows up when he's in the air. And that is because of a debug ability that I've got currently going on. One feature that was not in the original is wall jumping. And essentially, the way it is I've been working on wall jumping, and wall jumping is an extremely, in an extremely unfinished state currently. I've kind of gotten it to work, but not enough to consider it good. See, what's supposed to happen is Sonic is supposed to attach to the wall and fall slower, but that doesn't happen. So, I'm going to have to restart it because that's a bug. That way you don't have to sit there and stare at that circle the whole time. But essentially, as soon as I fix that up, it was working. And then I just now discovered that it's not working properly. And it's thanks to the wall jump features that I've added. But by the time I release this version, I'll make sure that you're going to be able to run around the corkscrew and within the shuttle loop, so don't worry about that. So this is actually something that is in the source code of the demo. If you've played any Sonic game, you know that, especially in modern Sonic games, that an integral part of a modern Sonic game are grind rails, and that is something that is missing in the demo, is grind rails. And what's actually funny is Oban had a lot of the groundwork set up for grind railing, but it's severely unfinished. And I mean severely unfinished. Look at that. It is extremely unfinished. I've been playing around with it, but unfortunately, that's going to take a long time. I don't believe that rail grinding is going to be in the next demo that I release. I don't believe that's going to happen. This is something that he started working on and left it by the time he released it, and it's just going to take a lot of time to work on. So, that's just another thing to work on. So, if you've looked around, if you've looked at the UI, you might have noticed a few things. I'll pull it up. I'm going to have to change the UI colors here, or change how they show up. You can see at the very top, at the score, you can see there's a meters per second clock speed and a miles per hour clock speed. Now, if you've played Sonic Unleashed, you will actually know that if you pass through a checkpoint, it will actually clock the speed that you're going whenever you pass through the checkpoint. And it did terrible at it because Sonic Unleashed didn't give you an actual unit of measurement. If you remember running through a goalpost, it will give you a number followed by SPD, or speed. So you could essentially go 5,000, or not really 5,000, I don't think it reached over 2,000, like 1,500 speed, which is not an actual unit of measurement. So what I have done is I have added the addition of clock speed, but I've also given you the option to change it between meters per second and miles per hour, depending on which unit of measurement you wish to look at it as. And you've probably noticed the red arrows trailing Sonic, and I'm going to get to that later. So, right down there, just to show this off. So the faster you move, bam. So whenever I pass through that goalpost, I hit it at about 330 miles per hour or 147 meters a second. So if you prefer imperial, or if you prefer the metric unit of measurements, it's completely up to you. And this will be included in the README text, but you actually hit the H button to swap. So, another thing. This is a bug that was in the original source code. The way that Lightspeed Dash is set up is actually very strange. Is as long as Sonic is in a Lightspeed Dash state, he actually cancels all momentum. Any momentum, any movement, any physics you had, essentially, it is canceled. So what I have done, well, to further explain, what it does is it cancels all momentum and all physics related to the character and overrides it with a Lightspeed Dash state. But as you go on in the Lightspeed Dash, it doesn't even matter what direction in the Lightspeed Dash that you're moving in, you will actually continuously gain speed. This is not necessarily a bug, but an oversight in the code. So here in this build, you can see that I have my score speedometer. So if I Lightspeed Dash here, which, by the way, Sonic in this version, I'll show it to you here in a bit, has a max speed of about 19,000 units a second. So as I Lightspeed Dash through here, keep in mind, Sonic cannot move faster than 19,000 units a second in this. That is his max speed that I've set. Bam. And if you've noticed, whenever I exited the Lightspeed Dash state, I was hitting over 100,000 units a second. That is how insanely fast and what kind of speed you can gain here. So as you see, I'm actually hitting about 17,000 units a second. That's because, once again, I've got to change the... I've got to change how this works. I've got to go in and fix the speed issue. But to go on and explain the arrows, which I'm pretty sure you're probably annoyed at looking at right now. In the original, and I'm going ahead and swap to this mode here, Sonic has what's called, what we call in movement design or game design, missile control. So Sonic's forward vector is dependent on the relative position of the camera. So if I move the camera right or to the left, Sonic's forward vector shifts in accordance to the relative position of the camera. I move the camera, Sonic moves with the camera. Now in the demo that I will release whenever I'm done, this will still be a feature. You'll still be able to do this if you wish. However, one thing that I have done, and I've implemented a mode called speed shift. So let's swap back. And if you look there at the bottom left corner, you can see the word speed shift. It's currently set to slow, but if you keep an eye on it, as I move faster, once I hit a certain speed, it swaps to fast, and you see the arrows. And if you look at it, I can now move the camera freely, and it does not change Sonic's forward vector. So I can look in any direction I want and change Sonic's vector according to the directional inputs. So that is what's called speed shifting. So once you hit a certain speed, you actually will shift up in speed, and his forward vector controls will become independent from the camera's position. And if you want, and by the way, this is only for keyboard and mouse controls for now. I've yet to implement it into controller, which I will think about doing before releasing the demo. I've not decided if I'm going to do that or not. But if you're playing on keyboard and mouse, what you can do is you hit middle mouse wheel, and it will go back to the original missile controls. So hit middle mouse wheel to activate speed shift, and then hit middle mouse again to deactivate speed shift. So real simple. That way, I'm not locking you into one play style. But keep in mind, and we've kind of worked on this, the reason why we implemented the speed shift in the first place was actually because of the loops. Because Sonic's directional input is relative to the camera, without speed shift, whenever Sonic runs up a wall, essentially the source code doesn't take that into account. It doesn't take into the fact that, hey, I'm running on a ceiling or I'm running on a wall and the camera is not supposed to depict which direction I'm moving. So the missile controls actually hinder Sonic's movement. But keep in mind, even with speed shift active, as long as you're in the slow state, which you can see right there is slow, Sonic continues to have the missile controls. That way, if you're moving slowly and you want to do any more precise platforming while moving at a slower state, you can have the more fine-tuned controls of camera direction controls. So that's another reason why I left in the option to shift up. Well, that's really not an option. That's why we implemented the shifting. Rather than having Sonic's controls being independent at all times, we left it to where you have to be moving a certain speed before becoming independent. That way to allow for more precise platforming at a slower speed. So, like I said, it's completely optional. You can deactivate it as you please. Time for another thing that I've added. This is something that isn't required at all, but something that I've always wanted to do. And if I were to ever make a fan Sonic game, this is something I've always wanted to do. And as you can see, I've added 3 walls here. You've probably noticed them as I've run by. One is made of gold, one is made of steel, and one is made of stone. So what do these walls do, you may ask? Well, if you hit at them when going fast enough, you actually break through them. Now, this is actually, I don't believe this has been implemented into any modern Sonic games or anything, but essentially what is going on is, this is something that I hope that people will be able to utilize in level design to encourage moving faster. So essentially, as long as you are good at playing the game and you continuously gain speed, you should be able to break through these walls. Now, as you can see up there on my score / speedometer, you can see how fast I'm moving. To break the golden wall, you basically have to be hitting max speed. So, which, speaking of max speed, Sonic's max running speed in this mode is the same. He hits about 6.6 100 units. But here's the nice thing. Boosting, and I've heard a lot of people complain about this in boost gameplay, is that boosting in Sonic games essentially gives you instant access to max speed. And what I've done is I've changed that. So that little bar down there below the speed boost, or the boost energy gauge, if you look at it, I know it's probably a little hard to see, and that isn't really my fault. That's actually how it looks by default. I've not edited that any. That is actually a speedometer. That is keeping track of your maximum speed. So as it goes up, it basically goes up the faster you move. So if you keep an eye on this, whenever I boost, you don't actually hit max speed. What I've done is I've implemented a case where even if you're boosting, you don't instantly get access to maximum speed. Essentially what you have to do is the longer you are boosting, the faster you move. So you're not given instant access to max speed. You have to earn your max speed by boosting as long as you can. So as you can see, as I kept boosting and I kept going, my speedometer down there actually kept rising until I hit around max speed. So essentially, to help fix and alleviate the issue of people saying, well, hey, hitting the boost instantly gives you max speed, I've kind of alleviated that issue in saying that, hey, just because you boost, it doesn't mean you're moving as fast as you possibly can. What you should be doing is you should be trying to play as efficiently as possible and boosting as long as possible to go as fast as possible. So rather than getting instant gratification and speed, you have to earn your speed even after boosting. So a boost isn't a simple, hey, you boost, you win. It's a, hey, you boost, now you better damn well keep boosting or else you ain't going to be going fast enough. So here's another thing. You've probably noticed it. Right below the speed shift is called boost efficiency, and that's another feature that I have added. So essentially, as you look at it, the boost efficiency goes up the faster I'm moving. Now you might be wondering, what is boost efficiency? Well, boost efficiency is actually how much of your boost gauge is draining per second. And what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to exit out of here because this is a very, very small area. And I'm going to open up a different map. All right, I'm back. I made the dumbass mistake of recording and trying to load up a new map at the same time, so I'm probably just going to cut all that out. So here we are. The reason I switched maps is so I can show off this feature more, because this map is ridiculously larger. So let's head on over to one end of the map over here. Whoop. Alrighty. So your boost efficiency will only go up or move as long as you're boosting. It doesn't take care if you're not boosting, obviously, because why would you need to keep track of your boost efficiency if you're not boosting? So essentially what's going to happen is the faster I move, the higher the boost efficiency will go. And you will notice as the high boost efficiency goes up, the slower the boost meter will actually drain. So that will hopefully further incentivize boosting as fast and as long as you can, because if you for any reason have to break the boost, your efficiency meter will actually drop down back to 0, and if you have to start boosting again, you will actually go back to the regular boost drain. And it's possible to add a delay, like if I'm boosting and then I stop boosting, and if you notice I boost again, it instantly goes back to 0. One thing that could possibly be added, which I've not decided whether or not I'm gonna do, is the basically a boost efficiency timer, meaning whenever you're not boosting, you have a set amount of time to boost again before your efficiency drops back down, which I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to do or not. It just depends. But essentially, you're going to watch the faster I move, the higher the boost efficiency goes, and the slower the boost gauge will drain. So keep an eye on it whenever I first begin boosting, and then watch as it slowly drains or depletes slower. So pretty quick drain right there. Hit about 50% efficiency, 90% efficiency. As you can see, it's actually draining slower and slower. And I've run out of room. So I should have made this bigger, but oh well, it doesn't matter. So as you can see, the efficiency goes up, my max speed goes up, and my drain goes down. So hopefully, if people end up using this feature, it can help incentivize good gameplay, which is something that Sonic has always been about. The better you are at a Sonic game, the faster you beat the levels and the higher the score and the lower the time you get. So that's kind of what Sonic games have always been about ever since the beginning, and I hoped that with this feature that I've implemented, that this will help accentuate the idea. I hope I use that term right, if I even pronounce that word right. Whoop. This is a incomplete map that I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to. I may go back to it. I don't know. But what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to swap over to the other map again. Actually, no. What we're going to do here is we're going to open up the character blueprint. We're going to go over here to boost energy. So essentially what this is you have your maximum speed boosting and max speed boosting minimum, max speed boosting maximum. So essentially the slowest you can be moving to while speed boosting, and the fastest you can be moving while speed boosting. And then you take your current speed, you get a return value, basically the return value of these, and then subtract it from your minimum boost speed, and then you take your max boost speed and minimum boost speed, you subtract it, and then you divide them. So you basically divide the float from the subtracted values of these two, and then you multiply it by your boost efficiency. So if anyone wants to go in here and change how efficient your boost drain is, this here would be where you do it. And then here's the boost drain energy decay by default. So essentially what this is doing is it's going to divide it by this. So it's basically taking your current speed, multiplying it by 0.5, and then subtracting 1 by it, and then multiplying it by your boost energy decay. And then there's also your boost energy total, etc., etc. So for anyone who wants to go in and change with that, my wall sliding and wall jumping code is extremely incomplete and not ready to really be shown off, so I'm not going to really mess with that. If you mess around, you've probably seen the grind rail. And why did that open over there? Let me bring this back over here. You got the grind rail blueprints. Okay, here's the cast a character thing I was talking about earlier. You've got your component on overlap, and then you have a sequence, and it says cast to this character, and then cast to this character. And I couldn't really find it anywhere at the time being, because I couldn't really remember off the top of my head where these were located. But these cast to characters, cast to Sonic character blueprint, and cast to Shadow character blueprint, these are everywhere. And this is why I'm not entirely happy with how this was set up. Essentially what this is saying is, hey, I want you to cast to this character, and then I want to cast to this character, which is, in this instance, extremely stupid, because in no circumstance whatsoever, unless there's multiplayer or both characters on screen at the same time, which is not going to happen, why would you want to cast to both characters in sequence? Essentially what you should be doing is classifying Sonic and Shadow as a single character with different attributes within the character blueprints themselves, and then simply just cast to a single character rather than casting to individual characters, because that means that I'm going to have to go in and change everything in Shadow after I finish changing everything with Sonic. So none of this is mine. All of this is his stuff. It's actually incomplete, which is why you don't see grind rails in the demo. But I'm hoping to change that one day. So essentially that's all I really have to show for now. Actually, there was one other thing, so I'm going to be right back. I'm going to have to swap over to the other map. All right, so we're back over here on the other map. If you played the original demo, you've probably, if you like to play around with it, you've probably noticed a few things. One, you've probably noticed that Sonic doesn't boost on top of water properly. As soon as Sonic makes contact with water in the original demo, he basically breaks the boost. He'll still be running on the water, but he will break the boost, and then you'd have to boost again on top of water. This is a bug that we have fixed. Another issue that you've probably have come across is Sonic will sometimes, at absolute random, just stop boosting. And a lot of times it has to do with whenever you're going around, like, these bouncy terrains and such. Like, Sonic will just randomly stop boosting, like, right there. Which I have actually fixed, but I've actually turned that off for now, because it's interfering with a couple of other issues, which I actually have the fix for. I just turned it off momentarily. But whenever I release my demo, that will be an issue that has been fixed. Is Sonic randomly breaking the boost whenever going across the terrain. And it's actually kind of funny. The reason that's happening is essentially one of two reasons. Within the code, Sonic has a minimum required speed in order to boost, meaning if, for example, if I hit shift right now, I would boost and then I would stop boosting. That's because I'm not holding forward. Essentially what the boost does is the boost inserts, insert's not really the right word. It kind of just puts Sonic at a maximum speed. If you watch the speedometer there, I hit almost 5,000 immediately. That's because it applies 5,000 units of 5,000 speed units a second to Sonic, and Sonic basically instantly boosts that fast. But the thing is the boost doesn't actually continuously propel Sonic. All the boost does, allows Sonic to accelerate faster. So essentially, by holding forward, I am causing Sonic to accelerate. And once I hit max speed, I'm no longer capable of accelerating. It's because I've hit max speed. All the boost technically does is, it removes the speed cap. And in this case, the speed cap is about 6,500. All the boost does is it removes the speed cap and allows me to accelerate faster. So as I'm holding forward, I am actually accelerating even faster. It's not the boost that's accelerating me, it's the boost removing my speed cap and allowing me to accelerate even faster. Now because of that, Sonic actually has a minimum required amount of speed to hit in order to boost. That's why whenever you hit the boost and nothing else, Sonic stops moving. That's because all it's happening is it's applying the speed to Sonic once and then stopping to give you an instant burst of speed. That's how you can go from 0 to almost 10,000 units a second, is because it instantly applies, I think it's about 5,000 units a second of speed onto Sonic. But because you're not holding forward, you're not actually using that momentum or pushing further. You basically just stop. So what does that matter? Well, essentially two different things happen. One is the way that Unreal Engine 4 calculates terrain and character movement on terrain is depending on certain types of terrain. Is as you watch me move around, Sonic is actually slowing down and speeding up depending on the terrain that I'm going around. Essentially, what happens is because Sonic is moving at such a quick speed, Unreal has to calculate the speeds at a correct, at a pseudo-correct way, and essentially what it does is for a split amount of seconds, it will actually dip you below the required amount of speed required to boost. And if you actually notice, whenever you run up this giant plateau right here, Sonic will actually slow down quite a bit. So essentially what happens is you are hitting you're basically going under the threshold of required speed. And I think the required speed was originally like 4,000 units a second, which is why you were actually causing to stop at all times constantly over and over again, was because you were constantly hitting that stopping threshold. And I've actually decreased that dramatically to about 2.5 thousand units a second, or 2,500 units a second. So you might be wondering, well, why are you still braking? Well, that's because of the other issue. Let me go ahead and try and show it off here. So if you boost up on the side and you boost over like that, as you notice, as I went over the edge, Sonic kind of just rocketed off the edge. And that's because I can't really show it to you, but essentially what the game is doing at all times is it's tracking a set amount of distance below Sonic. And essentially what it does is the angle in which Sonic runs off this at is at such a sharp angle that when you hit it at such a speed, Sonic, basically that gap that it's tracking below Sonic, no longer connects with the ground, so it launches you off. It's not going to magnetize Sonic to the ground because Sonic is moving so fast that it's not keeping track of the ground at that point in time. You're basically outrunning and moving so fast that it doesn't keep track of what's underneath you fast enough. And which can be alleviated by actually increasing the amount of space that is being that is tracking below you, which is another thing that allows you to actually run along the walls here and up here, is the fact that we have increased just slightly, and I've got to increase it again. I've increased it just slightly how far below Sonic the thing is tracking, which is what is allowing him to do this. But essentially, another issue, that's basically the other issue, is if Sonic is classified as being in the air at any point in time, it'll actually break the boost for a few seconds. So that's essentially what's happening here as well, is if Sonic runs across certain amounts of terrain, it may recognize for a split second, hey, you're no longer on the ground, stop boosting, which is an issue that I'm still trying to get down and fix. So it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of time. This is mainly the reason why I've not done a lot of streaming and a lot of video making recently, is because I've been working on this. And hopefully I can get it to a point where I can release it as maybe a version 2.0. Technically, this will actually more likely be a version 1.0 because he released it unfinished. So it technically was never in a 1.0 state whenever he released it. So what I'm hoping to do is one day release this as an official 1.0 release. That way people can use it, design levels, etc., etc., and essentially make the process of designing 3D Sonic fan games much more streamlined and easier. One last thing, though, and this is both in my version of the demo and the original version of the demo, and this is probably going to crash things. I don't know if it's going to crash the recording, but essentially, if you look right here, you can see that this little section right here is actually not connected. The ground that I'm standing on is extremely thin, and that's because in Unreal, we call this terrain. The entire map here is made out of terrain, essentially. This here is made out of geometry. This little section right here, which I have added to accentuate or to exaggerate the Lightspeed Dash bug, which I've shown you before. I essentially added it as extra runway speed. Do not stomp on this. If you're designing a level or if you're playing the demo, don't stomp on any terrain like this. It will crash the game, and it will actually crash the entirety of Unreal. I don't know if it's going to corrupt this recording or anything. I hope it doesn't. And if it does, I will just... what I'll do is I'll just, like, edit it out, I guess, but whatever. But essentially, do not crash. Do not stomp on any geometry. This is called geometry. This is called terrain. You can see where it kind of connects, and it's not the same. Let's see, and it crashed. I was too close. Don't stomp near geometry, and do not stomp on geometry. It will crash everything, including the executable and the entirety of everything. Look at that, it's Mono's thing. But essentially, that's it. That's all I've got for you. So that was basically it. That's what I have been working on for the past almost 2.5 weeks. I hope to, within the next couple of months, get this to a finished point of release. I will be giving a few people a demo. In fact, let's see here. I know I've already promised Chumzone Gaming and Chumzone Gaming. He's going to get a demo. An early access demo, Chumzone Gaming Entertainment, and Garrulous64. I'm going to give him a demo as well within the next month, hopefully. So, those demos will not be complete. Those demos will most likely not feature grind railing or rail grinding, whatever you want to call it. But once I do get rail grinding complete, I will most likely. I don't know if I'm going to release the demo just then. I'm planning on. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add tutorial bubbles, as well as maybe ground enemies. I might add ground enemies. I might not. I'm not entirely sure just yet. We will have to see. But by the time I release it, it will be in a more finished and less buggy state. The corkscrew and the shuttle loop will be functioning properly. I will promise that. I can't promise that wall jumping will be flawless, but I will try my best. And I can't promise that rail grinding will be flawless, but again, I will try my best. But so by the time I release this version 1.0 demo, hopefully everything will be in a much more finished state. But anyway, that's all that I have today. All I really wanted to do was share everything that I've managed to get done so far, as well as share the amazing project that was started by Oban, which I hope other people pick up and other people approve on and work on as well. So I think that it will make creating fan games a much more streamlined process, especially 3D fan games. I think a lot can be done with this. So I hope that you all like it, and if you do, go ahead and like and subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitch. I am planning on here soon streaming a bit of the design process. It's probably not going to be super fun, but I would more than love to have people there to talk with and converse with and even have help with, because you can never have too much help. But anyway, I'll see you all guys next time, and until then.